Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Johnny here at MTB Trail Rider. Here in my garage, excuse this huge mess back here. We got the Polygon Siskiyou T8, been riding this for several years. You guys have been watching the channel, know that. And I just recently got the new DVO Diamond D1 fork up front, and then the DVO Topaz Air Gen 3 shock in the back. So it's a full upgrade to the suspension I had on this bike, upgrading from the entry-level Fox Rhythm fork and the DPS shock in the back. So this ride is going to be testing out this fork and the shock with just standard recommended settings from their website, right? So to break down the metrics that I have, I'm right around 190, 195. I have the fork set up for 125 PSI. We have the OTT, which is off the top. That is set at 6 full rotations from fully closed, or I guess wide open. So from wide open, the softest setting, that is 6 clicks. So let's see if I can. This is the OTT here. I'm kind of keeping those stickers on here because it just kind of makes it a little bit easier to read. So this is their enduro fork, DVO's version. The D1 is their highest rated. There's like D1, D2, D3. So D1 is their top level. So we have the OTT. This is off the top. We can kind of talk about this on the ride. And then we have the Rebound on this side. I believe I am 8 or 10 clicks in from fully closed. And then I've got the high speed compression. That is set at 2 full rotations from wide open. And then I'm got the low speed set up on just the 2 rate number here. So it goes 1 to 6 on low speed. Now, there is no lockout on DVO's fork. So when you are wanting to pedal up the fire roads or things like that, you just crank the low speed all the way over to 6. It's not a full lockout, but it is, it does improve the pedaling efficiency tremendously. Now with the shock, we have the air bladder and then the main compartment here. So I have 200 PSI in the main compartment, and then I have 155 PSI in the bladder. And then the Rebound here is 5 clicks from, I guess, fully closed. And then right now the compression here is just set to wide open as well. So we'll be talking about this kind of once we're on the trail. Get moving, kind of talking about the fork itself. There's a lot of tunability and customization to these, both the fork and the shock, that I'm really excited about. A lot more than what the entry-level Fox Rhythm suspension has and the Fox Float DPS has. That kind of comes stock with the Siskiyou T8. We're out here at the trails at Andrews University. Just kind of worked up some access roads. This is, I think, just kind of the blue section, blue trail. I don't know if they don't have names, but just the blue loop when you see it on the map. Anyways, I'm also testing this new mount here with the new GoPro 12 and have it on my new full face helmet. So I'll be testing that as well. Kind of doing a whole test ride on all sorts of items here, but riding up felt good. Something too with the DVO shock. From my understanding, this logo, if it is fully covered, so if you meet it like, let me see if I can add some extra weight back here. If you can meet it all the way down to the end of that logo, that is supposed to be 30% sag. So it kind of gives you like a rough, like you can eyeball it a little bit. Like, oh, okay, like maybe that's, 25%, 20%, and then like all the way down for 30. Kind of gives you a rough idea. So, all right, let's get some riding. And these trails, nothing too crazy out here. It doesn't really gradually build up at all. It's just kind of lots of roots. It's kind of what you'll see out here. Just kind of exposed that way. A lot of just like quick up and downs. I would almost say more like cross-country stuff. Gives me enough like punchy climbs to get a workout in. Here we go. Nice exposure there. Nice Widowmaker. So suspension's feeling really smooth. It feels soft, like it feels plush, but I feel like I'm still getting some good support in the mid-stroke. So I think that little hop I did used a lot of that travel. There's another little kind of jump off the hip here. Let's push this back down. So my fork is 140 mil travel. The rear has, I think, 135. I didn't max it out, certainly, but I was definitely on the higher side of that. It didn't feel rough at all. Certainly felt soft. But just trying to think, like, that wasn't a big drop, right? So we'll continue to see how this feels out here. Here's a few other features to check out and see how that does. So something to think about. Remember, this fork and this company really takes a different approach to how you look at suspension. So their PSI recommendations are higher than what other suspension is looked at. So they want you to set your PSI. Whoa, let's look down there. They want you to kind of look at your PSI for your mid and end strokes rather than, you know, a traditional, you know, with a Fox, it's kind of setting my initial sag, but I'm almost kind of setting the air pressure for how I want, like the beginning stroke, maybe even a little bit of the mid stroke, to give me a little bit of that more like softer, like small bump sensitivity, if you would. But then I'm adding volume spacers to my Fox Rhythm fork to give me more support at the end stroke, right? Because when you add those volume spacers, the compression, like, it ramps up faster when you add those volume spacers. So it's a very easy thing to do, but it's just different. So here, you're kind of setting, they don't have volume spacers to put in your fork. So you're putting a little bit more PSI in. I was running probably 100, 105 in my Fox. And now I'm testing this at 125. And I'm adjusting the off the top, like, which is a negative coil, a negative spring coil, which makes the initial, like, soft bump sensitivity higher or lower. It's going to make the braking bumps feel better. So it's different, right? You could add volume spacers by adding more oil. Here's a nice little kind of drop here. Looks a little soft down here. All right, we're good. And so that's a fun little spot there. I enjoy that. That felt good all the way through. So that really wasn't a drop. I mean, because of the angle you're in, that probably would have hit more of your low speed compression than your high speed. So it's not low speed, high speed. It's not about how fast you're going. It's about how fast you're compressing your fork or your shock. So low speed compression, think pushing into, like, the face of like a jump, like a long face, not like a short little snappy, you know, jump, but something you see for big mountain bikes. Think of, you know, pushing into a berm or pushing into a corner. That's your low speed compression. High speed is how fast am I compressing this fork, like hitting a drop to flat or a little bit more abrupt landing. So it's not just about I'm going slow, this is my low speed compression. I'm going fast, it's not how that works. A lot of talking on the trail. So beyond that, that's where you have to look into kind of how am I going to use this off the top, because this is new to me too, part of why this test ride, right? So these suspension components, the Diamond D1, Topaz, like Air Gen 3, these are built for the tinkerer in mind. You can adjust travel with the 29-inch, 140 to 160. I hate climbing. And then you can adjust the 27 model, 27.5 model, to between 150 and 170. So I mentioned that this is definitely for the tinkerer in mind, not so much for the set it and forget it group. Coming down. And so when you think about that, it's just because there's so much adjustability into this. If you were just kind of a set it and forget it, you might like just the entry level Fox stuff, or maybe you want a nicer damper from the Fox. So you can certainly get that from this too. I know some people just like the look of the gold on the Fox, so that's what they want. But there's certainly different places for both. Both the suspension serve or achieve your outcome in different ways. So it's definitely different to think about, and I'm excited to be trying these out. I've been looking at DVO for a while. So I'm excited to finally try this out. To adjust the travel, it's inside. We'll keep going this way. And it's like little like spacer clamps that you have to get into the air chamber to adjust. So this trail that I've ridden today in this video, I feel like has felt really good. I did use up the travel in one section of the trail where that little jump kind of landed to flat, almost to flat, not quite. And I used up probably 90% of my fork and shock, probably all in the same, when I've readjusted the little O-ring. After that, with the other features, I've been kind of sticking in the mid-stroke of the fork and the shock as well. I got a little high on the shock when I kind of cased that one jump back there. But I feel like these are good settings for riding these trails here. So this will give me some good insight into how I'm going to be adjusting this in the future in a future video where I'm going to actually break down all the components, how you make those adjustments with the over the top, the OTT, or off the top, not over the top. I'm thinking arm wrestling, right? Off the top, it's hard because when I look at DVO's website, I don't see anything telling me to remove the air pressure before I adjust the OTT setting. However, I've just heard rumors through other people making comments, and I don't know if I'm spreading more rumors by not actually confirming this, but when I adjusted it, I just removed all the air pressure from my fork, adjusted it, and then repumped it up every 40, 50 psi, or in the beginning I kind of like move through the travel, make sure the air is moving through the chambers properly, and pumped it up to where I needed it to go. So I'm going to look into it to see if maybe it was related to an older model of fork, maybe if it's related to the D2, because the OTT adjustability, I believe, is inside the chamber with the D2 rather than outside on the D1. And so maybe that's where some of the misconception is from, because nowhere, at least in their setup manual for DVO, did they mention removing the air pressure. And I feel like if that was an important detail, they should be referencing that, right? Or they're going to be servicing a lot of warranties for broken parts. So yeah, we'll see. So I'm going to be doing some more research on that, and we'll be having a full video specifically breaking down the fork, specifically breaking down the shock. The shock has a lot of tunability as well. I didn't really speak on that much in this video. There are negative air tokens and positive volume spacers air tokens, just how you would like in a my Fox shock. It had the volume spacers by increasing the token to reduce positive for the positive spring. You can do that on the negative side. On this one, a lot of people tend to shy away from those because they feel like it makes it feel more rough, because it makes the breakaway and it needs more pressure for it to break away for that initial like soft bump sensitivity. However, with the bladder that's on this fork, it's supposed to still keep that very soft, so you can tune it additionally with the air bladder. And so you can certainly tune this and exponentially, right? There's a lot of ways to do this based on the trails you're riding, the features you're riding, your rider weight. So that's why I mentioned these are more specifically designed for the tinkerers and not just the set it and forget it type person. And take notes. Pull out your phone, bring a notepad, whatever you want, and keep track of your settings, how it felt, what trails you rode, and continue to play around with it. I think that's half the fun of mountain biking, is just tinkering around with the bike and figuring out what works, what feels good, what doesn't. So that's just me. All right, thanks for watching, guys.